Boker Tov, good morning. Continue our weekly support group in Emunah. We haven't had a sponsor the last few weeks, which, hint, is a way of encouraging an opportunity to sponsor in loving memory and honor of someone. It's mitzvah goreres mitzvah. You could sponsor the study of Torah and give tzedakah to a worthy cause. So we'll dedicate today's learning. Today is Yom HaZikaron in memory of our beloved and precious soldiers, over 24,000 of whom gave their lives to found and to protect the state of Israel and Jews around the world, and thousands others who died as victims of terror, who gave their lives al Kiddush Hashem, simply for being Jews and protecting our homeland. And the neshamas should have an aliyah. And we also daven for a refuah shlema. A member of our shul is having a serious surgery this afternoon, Shula Amsalam, Shulamit Bats Bella. Her surgery should go well, and she should have a speedy, complete, and painless recovery. Refuah Shlema. Okay, we're on Perek Chaf Aleph of Mesilas Yesharim. That's not because we read the first 20 chapters, that we're up to chapter 21. We skipped right to chapter 21, because this is not a shir of Mesilas Yesharim, but rather it's a class talking about Emunah B'tachon. We began this last week, and we chose this section, this Perek, in isolation, because this Perek really hits on a tremendously important nekuda, a very important central aspect or theme of living a life of faith, of emunah, which is why we get together to support one another in our attempted growth in that area. So just to remind you, and for those who weren't here last week, the chapter is called B'darchei Knias Chasidus, the right way to acquire piety. And we defined Chasidus here doesn't mean, not that there's anything wrong with the modern definition of Chasidus as a movement, a hashkafa within Yadus. Chasidus is not how to wear a shtreimel or a gartel or a bekesha. Chasidus is an inner piety, how to live a life where not only are you in control of urges and temptations, but you've been able to transform yourself to purge those urges and temptations so that you're much more wholesome and pure. A life of Chasidus, a life of piety. And he explained, the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, that the way to acquire that life of piety requires mindfulness, conscientiousness. You can't live a life of piety. You can't be not only overcoming struggle, triumphing over urge, but actually eliminating it. You can't eliminate it if you don't have a high degree of self-awareness. If you're not living life with a high degree of mindfulness. You have to know what's happening in your surroundings. You have to know what the temptations are. You have to know what the obstacles are. You have to know what the opportunities are. You have to know and feel Hashem's ever-presence in our lives. His guiding hand on our shoulder. His embrace, His support, His criticism. You have to feel Hashem's presence. When He's talking to us, Aslan Rebbe says in this week's Parsha that the Negoim, Tazria and Mitzorah, which are all about saras, they're about getting we spoke in the Parsha class yesterday, not a physical leprosy, it's not a dermatological disease, it can't be solved with cortisone cream, but rather it is a disease which reveals that there's a virus going on the inside. It's a virus on the inside. Because if you have a problem with your phone or your computer, it's not just what you see on the screen that's the problem. The screen tells you that there's a virus going on the inside. That's why the pasuk says it's amok mehaor. It's deeper than the skin. The blemish appears, the nega appears deeper than the skin. It's amok. It's deeper. It's not a skin deep disease. It's something which is much deeper. So the Slonim Rebbe says, "V'huva el Kohen." You go to the Kohen. You don't go to the doctor. You go to the Kohen. And he says the modern day application of tzaras is that when we stub our toe, or your knee, or your hip hurts you, or you're stuck in traffic, or the ache, or the pain, or the crack, that's your nega, that's our nega. And the same way the nega was calling out to the recipient, the victim, the patient who had that ailment, and saying, this is an invitation to make a change in your life. This is an opportunity. Hashem afflicts us with it, not because He doesn't like us, but because He loves us. And He wants us to realize we've got to shift something. Something needs to be repaired. There's something which is off here. Something is imbalanced. And so it begins, Hashem calls to Moshe, the nega calls to us. And in life, if one lives life with their antenna extended and looks around their lives, they feel Hashem is calling to me all day long. Everything that's happening to me. There are no coincidences. Nothing is chance. Whatever it is that's happening, there is a reason I meant to learn to grow. Not necessarily a punishment. I'm not suggesting that for every ache and pain, which is minimal, and certainly not for any major health crisis or challenge or any other crisis which is major, that one needs to automatically assume it's a punishment. We don't believe that. We don't live in a world of that. We leave that to God. We are not in a position to determine what's a punishment. But all we know is it's an invitation. It may not be a punishment, but it's a reminder. It's an alarm. It's telling us, make a change. Use it as a springboard to grow as an opportunity. And the Ramchal here says, so you need to be mindful. You need to be conscious, conscientious. You need to be awake. You need to be self-aware. Or you're never going to achieve a life of chassidus. You're never going to achieve a life of piety. If you listen to all the productivity gurus and you talk about successful people, and you talk about people who are the best version of themselves, who are high achieving, who aspire for greatness, they're self-aware. They're not just being brought by the momentum of life. They're not just go with the flow. They have a vision. They have goals. They're self-aware. They have a chart of they know what they want to accomplish, what will help them get there, what's an impediment to getting there, how they need to navigate those impediments, and what they need to do in order to be successful. And that's true in the physical sense, with our health, with our finances, but it's also true, most importantly, with our neshamas, with our souls, with our spiritual ambition. And the three things that he said, number one is, he said you need hispodidus. You remember we talked about this last week. You need space, you need margin in life. You have to be able to have time to think. If there's always noise, if its space is always filled with activity, then you can't think. And if you can't think, you can't have breakthrough. If you want spiritual breakthrough, relationship breakthrough, any breakthrough, you need to disconnect in order to connect. You need to make time for hisbodedus. It could be 30 seconds. It could be while brushing your teeth. It could be in the car. It can be whatever it is. But talk. I've been working on this the last several years. Talking to Hashem out loud. It's amazing how you grow in it. When you first start out, you feel like a moron. You feel stupid. You're like, it just feels weird. You're talking, who are you talking to? What are you saying? And what they know already? Why are you talking out loud? But the more you do it, the more you look forward to it. Because it's cathartic. You are confiding in a best friend. You're talking to the source of all who can help solve whatever challenge that you have. So whether you do it within davening, which is what it was designated to be, or whether you do it in anticipation of davening, we're talking about how to acquire chasidus. So the Chasidim Rishonim, the Gemara tells us, the Chasidim Rishonim, the early pious people, would designate an hour before they davened, which today is our Psukei de Zimra, which is about 8 minutes long, not an hour. But they would designate an hour before they stood up for the Amidah. Amidah comes from the words to be Omed Lefnei HaMelech, Da Lefnei Ata Omed. When you stand before Hashem, the rest of davening is not davening to Hashem. It's davening about Hashem. Birchas HaShachar, Korbanos, Psukei de Zimra, Birchas Kriya Shema, Shema, all that siddur stuff, till you get to the Shemona Esrei, the Amidah, is not, Penny used to hear me say this for years, back when I ran the explanatory service, but it's not talking to God, all of that is talking about God. Why? So that when you talk to God, you're ready to talk to Him. Psukei de Zimra, Zimra from the word Zomer is to prune, you're cutting away all the dead weight so that you can blossom and grow and flourish, so that you can have that kind of psukim that are Zomer, Psukei de Zimra. Psukei de Zimra is made up of two themes. Going back to my explanatory days. Psukei de Zimra is made up of two themes. It's the God of creation and the God of history. If you read the Mizmorei Tehillim that are chosen from Baruch She'amar, Hodu, Yichvod, Mizmor Soda, Ashrei, the Halalukas, Vayvarach David, Az-Yashir, all the themes are seeing God's hand in nature, in creation, and feeling Hashem's hand in history. Why? So we take that and we say, okay, this is now who Hashem is. He is categorically different than me. I am pathetic, finite, nothing. Wow. He is everything. Nature, history, unbelievable. I want to make a commitment to Him. I want a relationship with Him. That's Birchos Kriya Shema. It's all about my relationship, my obligation to Hashem. Shema is all about what my responsibility, what my obligation. That's Shema. Then from Shema, now I'm ready to have a conversation. I always used to say it's like the dating. First Psukei de Zimra is getting to know the other person. That's the dating period. Tell me, would you go to seminary? Would you go to high school? Tell me about your siblings. What are your biggest fears? What are your biggest dreams? Where do you want to travel? What kind of Shabbos table do you want to have? Where do you want to live? It's getting to know. Then you're ready for a commitment. You get engaged. Birchos Kriya Shema and Shema is the period of engagement. Right? That's Shema is all about, not love translates for Judaism into action. It's Kabbalah's Ol Malchus Shamayim and Kabbalah's Ol Mitzvos. Commitment is about action. And then the Amidah is when you go stand for a private conversation with Hashem, that's the Yichud room, that's the Chuppah, that's being a private rendezvous and intimacy and experience with Hashem. And then Ashrei Valatzion, you're not with Hashem anymore. Now after you exercised intensely and you had a heart rate of 160 beats a minute, you can't go from that to sitting on the couch. You'll die. You need to slow your heart rate down. You need to come off of that experience. You need to come out of the yichud room and re-enter life with the new status, the new relationship that you have. So the only part of davening where you're actually davening is the Amidah. The rest of davening, you're talking about Hashem, so that when you talk to Hashem, you can feel you're in His presence. We take 3 steps forward, and we are in wherever you are in life. You're in your kitchen, you're in the shul, you're on the side of a highway, you're in an airport. Wherever you are in life, you could take 3 steps forward, and the only place you are now is with Hashem. You're alone with Him. There's nothing else that matters. You don't really care. We take those 3 steps back, 3 steps forward. We keep our feet together. We're like an angel who doesn't walk. We have nowhere else to go. There is nowhere else to go. This is all we have. We're in the presence of Hashem. This is a conversation we're going to have. That's what the Amidah is. It's a private rendezvous. It's private intimacy. It is a private moment to confide in, to talk to express gratitude, to protest to. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And what I try to do, I'm just sharing with you not because I'm perfect or I don't have a long way to go, but maybe it can be helpful, is in my davening is my agenda for the day. Not as a distraction from my davening, but it actually enhances my davening. Okay, Ribbon Shalom, I've got a Levaya at 11 a.m. this morning. Give me the right words that will comfort the family. Help me write a hesped in record time because I didn't really leave enough time to do it. Help me. Okay, after that, I got to go visit someone having surgery in Miami. Ribbon Shalom, help me not have traffic and make this a miserable all-day experience. Help me find them, help it all go well, and help me find the ability to comfort them. Hashem, my child has a difficult test today. My other child, whatever's going on in your life, you have an agenda, an itinerary for your davening. If you're a human being, if you're alive, you have an agenda for your davening. I don't care how well your life is going. Mirz Hashem, I bless us all. It should go so well that we have nothing to talk about. You have something to talk about. And if you don't, then not a Jew who cares. Because if you care that it's Yom HaZikaron and there are families in pain today as they recall their loved ones who are gone. If you care that on Israel's northern border, Syria and Iran filling the vacuum and the potential conflict that's going on over there. If you're just awake and alive and you follow the news half-heartedly, you have something on your agenda to talk to the Ribbon Shalom about. And do you know how good it feels to weave into your own davening, asking Hashem to solve the Syrian problem? The less something has to do with you and yet you daven for it, the better it makes you feel. You're part of something bigger than yourself. You care. You understand His mission to repair the whole world, not just your world. You're not just part of an egocentric world that's all about you. You're part of His world. You're feeling the pulse, living the rhythm of His world and caring about it. So davening, each of those brachas. Atachonein, Hashem, give me the right words for a hesped. Hashivenu Avinu, Kodesh Baruch Hu, I don't know. I have my own personal tshuva. That part I'm not going to share with you. I've got to do, and help me do my own Slach Lanu Avinu. Rufa'enu, there's no shortage of people who need serious tefillas. Please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give them a refuah shleima. Baruch Aleinu, Parnasa, people I know, my own issue, whatever. It's an agenda. Chazal built us a beautiful template of agenda and said, fill in. That could be our hispodidus. If you feel comfortable talking to Hashem in the context of tefillah, talk to Him then. If you're not, in the car, in the kitchen, on a walk, talk out loud to Hashem. Fill Him in. Same way I was just describing. God, Levi, I need your help. What's going on? Kodesh Baruch Hu, that worked out. Thank you so much. That was amazing. My child came home so happy. I'm so happy there. The nachas you give me, I can't believe this. Whatever's going on. Kodesh Baruch Hu, I just found out this terrible thing happened to that person. I want to tell you I'm protesting. I object to your doing that, Hashem. You invited me to do that, like Avram did for Sodom, and like Moshe Rabbeinu did. And you've invited me to protest, and I'm using my voice to protest. I don't like it. It's not right. If it hurts them, it hurts me. Please don't hurt us. There's an opportunity to talk to Hashem all day long, and it'll leave you feeling transformed. You're nourishing a piece of yourself that is so hungry and thirsty and dehydrated by doing that. Okay, we haven't even started today. So number 1 was hispodidus. Number 2 was tap into Mizmorei David, he said, using Tehillim. And number 3 was biographies. Hakriya B'Sipor Maisa Chasidim. I told you I'm reading the biography of the Kloisenberger Rebbe. That you can read biographies of great men, great women, and you will be moved by their story, by their Mesiras Nefesh, by their heroism, by their ordinaryism. In other words, don't just read stories of heroism where you go, that's incredible, I can never live up to that, end of book, move on. Read stories of people who in an ordinary way led extraordinary lives. Okay, that's what we're up to. On page 150, the second paragraph. So what takes us away? What are the obstacles? What are the impediments? If we're trying to live this life of mindfulness and meaning of connection to Hashem, what are the impediments that knock us off course? Says the Mesilas Yesharim, says the Ramchal. You know what it is? Worry, nervousness, anxiety. When a person's mind is preoccupied, when you cause yourself to go crazy by anxiety of all the things in your life, how can you have a mindfulness, a consciousness? How can you have a self-awareness? How can you have goals if your head is clouded by all kinds of things? I was listening to a podcast last week by a Navy SEAL leader named Jocko Willens. He wrote a book called Extreme Ownership. He's like one of these just on fire people. Tim Ferriss, who's a great author and podcaster, also interviewed him and introduced me to him, and I was listening to his podcast. And he told a very interesting story that when he was in Ramadi in Iraq, in the worst city and having the most brutal battles. Anyway, his kids once said to him, could you send us a picture of where you sleep? So he went to the area of where he sleeps, and this guy's like a warrior. He's like, he's huge. He can do 65 pull-ups straight, and he weighs like 250 pounds. He's just this warrior. He gets up 4:45 every morning. He kills the day. You listen to him, and you're like pumped up. It's like drinking an entire box of coffee, just listening to 2 minutes of him. Anyway, so his kid said, "Show us where you sleep." So he went to take a picture of where he sleeps, and he realized that he didn't have the pictures of his kids on the wall. So he went into his folder. He took out the pictures. He taped them to the wall. He took that picture, took the pictures down, and he sent his kids the picture. Why didn't he have the pictures of his kids on the wall? Not because he doesn't love his kids, but he loves his kids so much that he wants to be alive to return to see them. And he said, when I'm preparing for the battle, for the mission the next day, I can't be distracted looking at the panim of, he didn't say panim, looking at the sweet faces of my children and looking at my wife and thinking about what would happen if I didn't come home, or what they need from me, or what I'm missing, what's going on over there. To love them more is to not be distracted by them, so that when I come home I can be healthy, alive, and be fully present with them. I'm not, judging that right, wrong. I thought it was a fascinating perspective because, before he said that, you'd say, like, what kind of monster doesn't have a picture of his family on the wall of where he is in Iraq, half a world away, not even seeing them? But once he explained his rationale, so it's reminding me of it, this notion that if you want hisbodinus, you want contemplation, you want mindfulness, you got to remove distraction. Not your kids and spouse among them. They're part of the hisbodinus. I'm not suggesting on a daily basis one does that, but it means that we have to be focused. Because without contemplation, you cannot achieve chasidus, piety, right? Completion, wholesomeness, piety, however you want to define it. Afilam hisigu kfar, and even if you've achieved it, you've gotten there. You're living the best version of yourself. You jump out of bed in the morning. You do the exercise you're meant to do. You read the Tehillim you're meant to read. You daven with full kavanah. You volunteer. You do chesed. You're an amazing friend to the people around you. You're the ultimate parent. You're the most disciplined. You're learning it. You're the killer. You're killing it. You're killing it. You've arrived. You can never feel you've arrived. You're never there. You're never there. It is a constant battle. Constant battle. In the world of addiction and in the world of recovery, one of the keys to success is to never feel that you're done. You're never done. So, I was talking to somebody who's in recovery, and he was sharing how he begins at every meeting. He says, I am so-and-so, and I am an alcoholic. One of his family members says, you still say I am? You don't say I was? You don't say I was? You've been clean 30 whatever years. You still say I am? He said, yeah. He said, the day I say I was is the most vulnerable day that I go back to whatever I was doing. The day I say I was, I'm at the greatest risk. I'm most vulnerable to be going back to what I was doing. I am. And that's true for us. Whatever it is we're overcoming, we're conquering. Right? These week's Parshios, Lashon Hara, gossip, that urge. Let's say you're in a great place because some friend got very sick, so you signed up for an hour and not the 2 to 3 a.m. slot of I'm not going to speak Lashon Hara. You signed up for a real hour, and you were good for that hour, and being good for that hour felt so good that you expanded it to 2 hours and 3 hours and 5 hours, and now you're like, I was a gossiper. No, I still am a gossiper. I am just every day battling to have self-control not to gossip. Every day. The moment you think you've arrived, the moment you think I was, is the moment you will become once again. And that's exactly what the Ramchal is saying. That don't think you've arrived. Afilu im hisigu kfar. You got to that level. You attained that status you were hoping for. You got to that self-control, that discipline. The moment you let your guard down is the moment that the distractions, the anxiety, the worry, the nervousness creeps back in, the to-do list, everything you have to do. You feel like you're suffocating. You feel like the world's caving in. Then all that you've achieved disappears. The amunah, the bitachon, the serenity, the tranquility, the avas Hashem, the yiras Hashem, it disappears. Alkein amr zechron levracha, ein hashchina shara lo mitoch atzvos, v'lo mitoch atzlos, v'lo mitoch kalos rosh, v'lo mitoch dvarim b'telim, el mitoch dvar simcha shel mitzvah. I love this Gemara, Shabbos Daf Lamed. It's an unbelievable Gemara. Should be on posters around our homes. Ein hashchina shora. You want divine presence in your home? What a statement of the Jewish people. The divine presence is not in a place of seriousness and sobriety and sadness and nervousness and anxiousness. All of those attitudes, all of that drives the Shekhinah away. If you think that the holiest home is the place where they walk around like this and they don't talk at meals and they're very serious because there's a Ribono Shel Olam and we're being judged for everything we do and how could we do and life is so short and it doesn't... Hashem says, would you want to hang out in that house? Hashem says, I don't want to hang out in that house. What are the qualities? Lo mitoch atzvos. Sadness? Who wants to be around sadness? We have friends and family members who are constantly fabissina and down and sad and complaining and woe is me. And you know what we do? Who wants to be around that? You tolerate it, you put up with it, you check in on it, you go to the family event with it, but you don't crave to be close to it. Kadosh Baruch Hu also says, Lo mitoch atzvos. You're atzuv, you're sad. Sadness, now I'm not talking about somebody who's clinically sad, somebody who has good reason to be sad. I'm not trying to make anyone feel guilty for being sad. There are reasons to be sad. And there's nothing wrong with sadness. But sadness has moments and has times. Sadness is not an overarching demeanor. My whole life. Oh, my demeanor? Sad. V'lo mitoch atzlus. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't connect with laziness. Right? You want to be around the people who are like, no, don't do anything. Just sit here. Just sit on the couch. Do nothing. Accomplish nothing. Let's just gossip. What'd you hear about someone? I'll tell you what I've heard about people. You don't want to be around that either. Maybe once in a while you get sucked into it. I don't know about you. If I've ever been to a Shabbos meal, hopefully not at this house because we try to prevent that, but you ever had a Shabbos meal where you're not in control. And so the conversation was yucky. It was about people. It was yucky. Like when you walk away from that, you feel tired, depleted, yucky. You need a shower, you need a mikveh, it just feels yucky. It feels yucky. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu also says, Atzlus, I don't want to be around that. V'lo mitoch kalos rosh. Frivolity, jokiness, sarcasm. V'lo mitoch dvarim b'telim. Ella, so what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want to be around? The Shekhinah is Shora. To what home does Hashem fill his countenance? Does he bring his presence? Mitoch dvar simcha shamnit. He wants joy, happiness, enthusiasm, high energy, positiveness. Right? I'm addicted to Jocko right now. I want to listen to his podcast and read his books. Why? Because 3 minutes with him and you're like, that's it, I'm on fire, I'm going to conquer my day. Right? You want to be around that. So Kadosh Baruch Hu also wants to be around Dvar Simcha Shel Mitzvah. A home that says, what's our next mitzvah? And such enthusiasm and such joy. And it's so exciting. Even greater, to the pursuit of pleasure and enjoyment, they are the opposite. They are the obstacle to Chasidus. They lure the heart towards them. They are a distraction. They take us away from everything we know to be important, to be true, to matter. What saves a person from these things? Oh, this is the punchline. This is why we're learning this in this year. Finally, we're here. So you say, great, I buy in. I'm ready. I want to transform who I am, my demeanor, my disposition, my home, my interactions. I want to transform it from sadness to joy, from laziness to activity, to alacrity. I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to transform it. What do I need? What do I need to achieve that serenity, tranquility, that peace, that calm, that mindfulness, that contemplativeness, that hisbonenus? What do I need? Says the Ramchal, you know what you need? It's one word, bitachon. But how do you get the simcha? What you need is simcha. So how do you feel that joy? Feel that joy? I just told you my itinerary for one day. I got to do a funeral. It's so sad. I got to check in the family. There's so much sad in this crisis, the other crisis, the third crisis. There's just this crisis and crisis. I'm talking about my own children and my own life and my own. How do I feel? How do you have happiness when you have all that? How do you have joy? This children has this challenge. That child has that challenge. You're worried about this family member for that reason. You're worried about your parnasa. Will that thing work out? You have this friend. You have that thing. Not to mention your to-do list with its deadlines. How are you going to get it all done? How are you supposed to feel simcha that's going to welcome the Shekhinah? How can you live a life of joy, enthusiasm, happiness, where Hashem will want to dwell when you have all that? You know what the answer is? Says the Ramchal, the solution to it all? Bitachon. Bitachon. Because the moment you buy into bitachon, the moment that you have the mindfulness to say, you know what? There's a Ribono Shalom, there's an Almighty, He created the world, He put me in it, I have a mission, and it's all going to work out. There's a reason for everything that's happening. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to put in my best effort. And it's all going to work out. It's going to work out. And whatever it is, because whatever it is what's meant to be. So now you can take that deep breath and realize it is what it is. Actually, in one of these podcasts, I think it's when Tim Ferriss is interviewing Jocko. I'm not Tim Ferriss, Jocko. Kick. So he talks about, he doesn't say it in the form of bitachon, right? Because he's not giving a religious podcast. I don't know if he is. I don't know if they are religious, not religious. That doesn't come up. But he talks about when you are running late to the airport and you realize you're going to miss your flight. He says you need to embrace that and say, you can either lose your cool, start crying and flipping out, and everything is ruined, and what's going to be, and the anxiety. So now you start a fight with the person next to you, and your blood pressure went through the roof, and you're breathing shallow, so your health was compromised, and it's just the end of the world, which will not make the plane wait for you. Or you could say, you know what? I can't change this. It is what it is. This is an opportunity for growth for me. Wow. I don't have to pay money to go to a Tony Robbins seminar. Right now, in my car, right now, I can transform myself. I don't have to wait for Shabbos Shuvah, Shabbos Hagadol to hear a great drasha. Right now, I have a great moment to work on myself. This is it. This is an opportunity. He's not talking about it in the context of bitachon, but the same is true for bitachon. Those moments that normally would have made us stress out, get anxious, lose our cool, fight, ruin relationships, ruin our health, are each an invitation and an opportunity. They're a nega. They're amok min ha'or. They're saying, hey buddy, relax, it's going to work out. You weren't meant to be on that flight. The woman who died on that Southwest flight, what she would have given to be late for that airplane. We weren't meant to be on that flight. Right? Not every time did you miss a flight where you meant to die on the flight. But I'm just saying, if we have bitachon, if you live life the higher order. Rabbi Soloveitchik writes, it's really magnificent. I'm happy to share with you at another time because the way he writes it is very beautiful. He says there's only one fear that can solve all the other fears. If you have a phobia of public situation, you have a phobia of height, you have a phobia or fear of worry of finances, you have a fear of health, you have a fear of this, you have a fear of terror, you have a fear of whatever. There's only one fear. It's very paradoxical because you'd say, how could fear replace fear? If it's fear, you need to overcome fear. The Rav, it appears in Ala Tshuva because there was a psychologist who gave Rabbi Soloveitchik a very hard time in Elul. He said, we daven on the Yom Noraim and we say, Ubechein tein pachtecha Hashem elokecha. Hashem, give us some good, healthy pachad of you. Fear. Right? Normally, yira I translate as awe. Pachad is a dose of fear, real fear. So the psychologist would say, I spend my whole day trying to heal people from fear, trying to relieve them of fear. Fear is debilitating. Fear is paralyzing. Fear is unhealthy. I'm trying to get rid of fear, and you're davening, Hashem, give me fear. So the Rav's answer was, there are two different types of fear. The fear that we're davening for is, in fact, the greatest therapy, the only solution to every other type of fear. Why? Because, says the Rav, all the other fears are because we have no control over those things, and what will they do to us, and what will happen, and what will be, and how will it impact, and how will we... But when you live with a fear, an awareness, an awe of Hashem, of the Ribono Shalom, then all those other fears can fall away because you realize He's in control. Whatever will be, will be. What's meant to be, will be. You have what you need. You do your best, and the rest is in His hands. It's the most it's the feeling of the greatest relief. Let go. They say in treatment, in AA, or in the 12 steps, let God, let go, let God. Let go, let God. Somebody in treatment told me yesterday after my Parsha Shir, I was talking about at the root, Lashon Hara is only one of 7 things that Chazal tell us cause tzaras. And I said the common theme of all of them is ego. So he said in the 12 step, they say ego stands for edging God out. When you have ego, it's edging God out. There's not room for both of you. So either you make room for Him, and you know what the consequence of making room for Him is? You could relax. You could relax. You know, sometimes you drive, right? So when we have family trips or we're together, I always drive. Almost always. I always drive. And I enjoy it. I like it. I'm a control freak. It works for both of us. I like to drive. But recently I was with Rabbi Moskowitz and we had to drive from New York to, where did we go? To Washington. And he drove. I got to be in the passenger seat. I'm almost never in the passenger seat. You know what happened? My seat back a little bit. Next thing you know, poor Rabbi Moskowitz was talking to me and I was fast asleep. And I was in and out that whole 4-hour ride. And being a passenger is really pleasant. You know? I wasn't looking at, is the car in front of me braking? Do I have to brake on time? Do I have to change lanes? Check ways? When is the next exit? Is there traffic? Am I going over the speed limit? Is there a policeman near me? All of those things that cloud your head and that cause, even subconsciously, a little bit of angst. Am I going to get a ticket? Will I have traffic? Where do I have to turn? I don't want to miss the turn. Even if you're a calm person. But all those things are ever present, taking up space in your head. When you're a passenger, you don't have to think about any of that. Relax. You could open a Gemara. You could read a book. You could have a conversation without that background noise. You could close your eyes and fall asleep. So, bitachon, says the Ramchal, or Rabbi Soloveitchik says to that psychologist, bitachon puts you as a passenger in life. Now, you're both a driver and passenger at the same time, because we don't believe in being a passenger as a spectator passive. We believe in human initiative. We believe in bechira chavshus. We believe that you have to take initiative to take control of your whole life. You're a driver passenger at the same time. You're a driver passenger, but you have the benefit of being a passenger. Bitachon says, you know what? Go in the passenger seat and relax. I got it. Kodesh Baruch Hu says, I got it. Put your trust in Hashem entirely. You know, while I'm a passenger, I can still worry. What if Rabbi Moskowitz misses the exit? What if he gets a speeding ticket? What if he gets us in an accident? But when you're in a passenger in Hashem's car, it's the ultimate driver. Nothing can go wrong by definition because Hashem is the driver. And when you realize Hashem is the driver and you let go and you're willing to be the passenger, by definition, nothing can go wrong. All of your parnasa was established already on Rosh Hashanah. Whether you put a key in the challah, you didn't put a key in the challah. Already Rosh Hashanah, it was determined whether you were going to put a key in the challah. It's a big schooler for the dentist, by the way, the key in the challah. A person can't touch even a hair's breadth of what is set aside for his fellow man. We talked about this in the Parsha class yesterday as well, because I shared, I'll just repeat it here for those who don't go to the Parsha class. The Ben Ish Chai has an incredible vort. The Mitzorah, the individual whose ego, whose arrogance got in the way, who gossiped, who was ruthlessly competitive, part of the healing process of the Mitzorah is to shave his head, his eyebrows, his body. First you let your hair grow, can't trim it at all, and then the healing process, part of the process of bringing karbanos and the like, is he has to shave. What happens when he shaves his head? So the Gemara, there's an amazing Gemara in Bava Basra. The Gemara says that if a person looks, for some of us it's easier to see than others, but if you see where your hair used to grow or grows, you see the pores, you'll see that there's a pore for every hair. And the Gemara says that should 2 hairs try to grow from the same pore, a person would go blind. I don't know, medically it means you literally go blind, or it just means that it's bad for your health, or it's just meant metaphorically. But on our scalp, in our body, every hair grows from its own pore. 1 pore doesn't produce or nourish 2 hairs. So the Ben Ish Chai suggests maybe the reason the Mitzorah has to shave is to see those pores and realize, just like every hair has its own pore, every human being gets what they need from Hashem. And don't try to encroach on someone else's parnasa. Don't be ruthless in business. Don't gossip about somebody else because you're jealous, you're envious, you want what they have, you're competing with them. realize every hair has its own pore, and every one of us have what we need from Hashem. He'll take care of us. That's this Gemara in Yuma. Nobody could touch what was meant for you. You have X business. I don't care if across the street 10 competitors open. They can't touch what you have. I quoted yesterday the Chazon Ish that we studied together in Emunah Bitachon, who said the person who claims to have Emunah Bitachon all day long, the competitor moves across the street, they badmouth them, they threaten them, they go to the distributor about them, they undercut them. What happened to the Emunah Bitachon? That everything you have is from Hashem. If you have Emunah Bitachon, you know what you do? You go across the street, and you knock on the competitor's door and you say, welcome to the neighborhood. How can I help you? Let me introduce you to my contacts. Let me tell you what I did to set up shop. Because you know what? I trust the Ribono Shalom has enough to make me wealthy and you wealthy. That if you succeed, it doesn't have to come from me. If I meant to be wealthy, I'll be wealthy no matter how well you do. And if I meant to fail, I'm going to fail no matter how poorly you do or even if you never came. So that is the attitude that we're supposed to have. So the answer, the antidote to worry, anxiety, nervousness, fear, scattered, fragmented, divided, mindlessness, the answer is bitachon. Bitachon. Be a passenger. Just be a passenger. Just be a passenger. So, you're missing the plane, you're in the car, you're stuck in traffic, your heart rate's going up, your breathing's getting shallow, you're starting to just realize, you know what? I'm a passenger on the ride of life. Hashem, you're driving my life, I'm sure you're taking me wherever I'm meant to go. Wasn't meant to be on this plane, I'll be on the next plane. Wasn't meant to have this, I'll have that. Everything is for a reason, whatever is meant to be. I trust you, I'm a passenger on your ride, and I look forward to seeing where we're going to go. Because who knows how it's going to work out. Some people thought they were on a trajectory towards something being perfect, and it turned out it was the worst thing in the world for them. And other people said, what I thought, what I wanted was perfect, and Hashem, you took me to this worst thing, and it turned out the worst thing was the greatest thing that ever happened to them. So be a passenger and say, Hashem, looking forward to seeing where this ride takes us. Who knows? I can't control it. I do the best I can, and beyond that, I let go and I let God. Next week I'm away at a rabbinic conference, so we're off next week, unless you want to meet with Yocheved Goldberg and chill. No? Okay. So we'll resume in 2 weeks.